powerful biotech corporation came to reclaim the lion Emily once rescued, calling him nothing more than Subject 7. At their helm stood a cold-eyed man who saw living beings as property, not life. But the lion stood his ground to protect her, and Emily triggered a forgotten military beacon that changed everything. But just wait until you see how this unbelievable standoff ended, and why justice, in the end, truly prevailed. Deep in the heart of Montana, where pine trees stretched towards skies that seemed to sigh with memory, the rain was steady and mournful, like the land itself was grieving. Every droplet tapped the moss-covered earth with purpose, echoing through the vast silence of the wilderness. Emily Rhodes, 34 years old, moved through the underbrush with the kind of patience only heartbreak teaches. A former combat medic, and now a devoted wildlife rescuer, she walked as if the forest were holding its breath, waiting. 2 years ago, she had pulled a lion cub from the back of a rusted livestock trailer at a remote roadside market. His paws were raw from wire flooring, ribs too visible under matted fur. But what haunted her most weren't his injuries. It was his eyes, terrified, empty, and unmistakably aware. She named him Asa. It meant healer in Hebrew, a name she whispered when she tucked him into the safety of the rehab center nestled on state-protected land. Then, without warning, Asa vanished. The report said, likely taken by a bear. The cameras had stopped working due to weather. The case was closed, but Emily didn't buy it, not for a second. She quit her job at the sanctuary, sold the jeep she'd use, Ziod, to ferry injured bobcats and foxes across Montana, and packed a rucksack with only essentials: water tablets, freeze-dried meals, maps, and a photo of Asa. Her friends said she was chasing shadows. She said she was following truth. Either I find him, she whispered to herself night after night under her tarp, or I never come back. For weeks, she moved silently through the forests, tracing paw prints that might have been his, or wishful thinking. Then, one gray afternoon, as the clouds hung low and the trees stood solemn like sentinels, she climbed an abandoned ridge. The wind shifted. A low growl broke the stillness. Emily turned slowly. There, not 30 feet away, stood a lion. No longer the gangly cub with trembling legs. This was a survivor. His frame was massive, scarred. A raw slash ran across his shoulder, and yet his eyes were unchanged, gold-flecked, intelligent, watching her. For one breathless second, nothing moved. Not the trees, not the air, not time. Emily dropped to her knees. Mud soaked her jeans. Her fingers trembled. Tears traced the lines of dirt on her face as her voice cracked into the wind. "Asa, is that you?" The lion took one step forward, then another. His gaze never left hers. No aggression, no confusion, just something wordless, something sacred. He stopped inches from her, his head lowered, breath warm against her forehead. And then he touched her, just lightly, with the tip of his nose. In that moment, the forest exhaled. And somewhere far above them, the rain finally began to fade. The morning broke, not with birdsong, but with the low, mechanical growl of engines echoing across the hills. Emily's eyes snapped open. The sky was still heavy with mist, but on the far ridge, dark vehicles crept forward like shadows with purpose. 4 black jeeps, matte and silent, cutting through the silence like blades. Military? No, something worse. She grabbed her binoculars. The logo on their uniforms caught the light, a gold serpent twisted into the letter M. Midas Biotech. Her stomach dropped. She had heard that name whispered in closed-door meetings and buried articles, always in connection with rumors of unauthorized animal testing, whispered scandals, and projects scrubbed from official records. No one ever talked openly. No one dared. And now they were here. She turned to Asa. He stood by the trees, calm but alert, his ears forward. She motioned for him to follow her into the thicker brush. He didn't move. Instead, he stepped in front of her, eyes fixed on the jeeps. A deep rumble vibrated in his chest, a warning. His muscles tensed, not in fear, but in defiance. From the lead vehicle, a man stepped out, late 50s, steel gray hair, suit built like armor. He raised a megaphone and spoke with a voice as cold as stone. Return Subject 7. He is not your pet. Emily froze. Subject 7. The phrase rang in her ears like a distant explosion. Her thoughts blurred. She shouted back, her voice sharp with disbelief and fury. He's not a subject. He's a living being, and you're not taking him. Another step, another growl. Asa moved between her and the men, planting himself like a barrier. His posture wasn't wild. It wasn't desperate. It was deliberate, measured, protective. One of the guards hesitated, lowering his weapon slightly. He knows her, the man muttered under his breath. She's the one who got him out. He remembers. A chill ran through Emily. The rehab center, the cameras, the oddly quiet disappearance. No real investigation, just an empty file. They had let him go, not to free him, but to watch him, to test him. Suddenly, it all made sense. The fake permits, the vanishing data. Asa wasn't just an animal they had lost. He was something they had built. And now, he'd chosen not to return. He'd chosen her. Emily's hands curled into fists as the reality closed in. She wasn't just trying to protect him from danger anymore. She was standing between him and the people who had created him, and were now terrified of what he might become without their leash. The crack of a rifle shattered the stillness like lightning across glass. Emily flinched, instinctively covering her ears as the sound echoed through the valley. Asa surged forward, a blur of muscle and fury, but the shot had found him. A dark stain spread across his shoulder, yet he didn't falter. He held his ground, his roar tearing through the air, louder than any engine, more commanding than any voice. The armed men hesitated. Emily's breath caught. She had seconds, maybe less. Her fingers scrambled through the pack she always kept near, pulling out a black, worn device no larger than a deck of cards, an encrypted military transponder, something she'd once used to call an emergency medevacs overseas. She hadn't touched it in years, but it still worked. With trembling hands, she activated the signal. A quiet chime confirmed transmission. Coordinates locked. Uplink complete. She'd just summoned the one force these men couldn't intimidate, federal wildlife protection. And then, silence. Half an hour passed, like a lifetime. But when the sound of new rotors swept across the trees, it came with clarity, authority, and law. Helicopters descended. Government-issued SUVs rolled in. Rangers in forest green and agents in federal jackets surrounded the site within minutes. Weapons were lowered. Voices barked orders. The man with the megaphone stepped forward, attempting to flash a binder of credentials. A senior officer barely glanced at them before tearing the pages in half. "These grounds are federal conservation land," he said flatly. "You're trespassing, armed, and in violation of multiple wildlife protection statutes." No further negotiation. As the Midas biotech team was led away, quiet now, smaller somehow, Emily sank to the ground beside Asa. He was breathing hard, muscles taut, but his eyes remained fixed on her. He hadn't run. He hadn't retaliated. He had shielded her, protected her. And he was still doing it. A wildlife veterinarian approached slowly, kneeling just outside Us's reach. To everyone's astonishment, the lion didn't flinch. He allowed the bandage to be wrapped around his wound, his golden eyes never leaving Emily's face. He wasn't just calm, he was present, grounded, trusting. 6 months later, Emily stood quietly as the premiere of a National Geographic documentary aired across the world. The story centered on an extraordinary bond, a lion who remembered a human not by scent, but by soul. Experts discussed the unprecedented behavioral patterns, genetic markers, and neurological resilience. But Emily never appeared on camera. She had declined every interview. While the world debated science, she was busy building a sanctuary right in those same woods where she'd found him. A place not marked by cages, but by space, healing, freedom. And every evening, as dusk turned the trees gold and shadows stretched across the forest floor, Asa would emerge, silent and steady, and settle in the tall grass just beyond her porch. He didn't come for food or commands. He came because he chose to, not as a captive, not as a symbol, but as something deeper, as a friend.